Welcome to another episode of the Pocket Mastermind podcast. Today I'm talking to holistic wellness coach and mentor Lisa Gumieniuk about how to turn chaos into clarity. Following her own experiences with stress, anxiety, overwhelm, Lisa created the Chaos to Clarity Reset Method, and she's here today to tell us about how that works. So Lisa, welcome from the other side of the world to the Pocket Mastermind podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks, David. All the way from Sydney, Australia. It's so great to be here and having a chat with you today.
Pretty much as far away as you can possibly get. So the wonders of technology are winning again.
Just about. I love it. I love it. It's literally so amazing that obviously at the moment we can't, fly to. In Australia, we're sort of not allowed out of the country or back into the country. So it is so beautiful that we can connect in so many ways. And, podcasting and Zoom, it really is beautiful and really powerful.
It's one of the good things that's come out of this, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a number of good things that have come out of this. And I think that connection, I think the realization for people, that connection is so important. And, we're going to talk a bit about anxiety, and, a lot of anxiety comes from or stems from connection or lack of connection.
Yeah, definitely. So before we get into the chaos to clarity and talk a bit about anxiety and all the rest of it, let's get a bit of background on who Lisa is, and how I mentioned a bit about your own personal experience, but explain to us a bit about what led you along this path.
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2013, which is going on about 7 years ago now, I literally thought I was on top of the world. I was marrying my partner, who is now my husband, 7 years on. But, marrying my partner, doing really, really well at work, winning awards. I just felt like I was literally on top of the world. But underneath all of that was stress, was anxiety, was overwhelm. And it was also pushing me to depletion. So I was depleting my physical body, my energetic body, my mental body, my spiritual body, like whatever aspects of me were just being depleted. So I went from being very, very functioning in a corporate role, managing a team, winning awards at work, to not functioning and not being able to process or comprehend things, not being able to read a 2-line email, I remember. So I had a lot of problems with brain fog and memory loss and cognition. And then I also had symptoms of chronic fatigue and a whole heap of other symptoms. And so I started off with a diagnosis of glandular fever, and then a few months later an autoimmune disease, and then 2.5 years into that journey, Lyme disease. Actually, I had a car accident when I started to, when I first started to get unwell. And then I also had shingles and heavy metal toxicity, and like the list goes on and on. So for me, a lot of chronic infectious illness, but stress, anxiety, overwhelm causes.
Was that gradual? Did you realize it happening, or did it happen fairly quickly in quick succession?
It was, it's been a 7-year journey. So I was diagnosed with glandular fever, which was about 2 months after my symptoms set in. And then about 3 months after that, an autoimmune disease, and 2.5 years after that, Lyme disease. And I think about 2 years after that was shingles, and there's other bits and pieces obviously then thrown into the mix. So it took quite a long time for the different diagnoses, I guess you could say, and the realization of sort of, what's happening and what's happening within my body. But one of the biggest challenges all along the way, David, was really that the emotional component, because all of these things are happening to me in my body, and I didn't know how to process them. I didn't have the mindset, the emotional, resilience and strength and understanding, or the spiritual connection before I got sick, to then when I got sick, it just made it worse because I really wasn't able to process what was happening. And it took me years to really grasp what was happening.
And I guess it's a bit of a snowball effect then. So once one thing happens and you don't have the coping mechanisms, your susceptibility to other issues increases, right? How do you, how did you like kind of stop that snowball effect? Because obviously at some point it got to a place where enough was enough. So I'm really interested at how you then gained that clarity and the skills, the mental cognition or whatever it was that allowed you to then put the brakes on and start to reverse that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, being a type A personality, I was always pushing and always, trying, what can I do next? What can I do next? What can I do next? So I started off right from the beginning. I was determined to like recover and do as, whatever it took. And I started off with the physical things. What can I do from a nutritional perspective? What practitioners do I need to see? What can I do from a supplement perspective? What therapies can I have? Colonics or acupuncture or naturopathy, or I tried so many different therapies. So it got to the stage that I was doing all of these therapies, but I thought there's something missing. And at one stage, one of my practitioners said to me, "Lisa, I think you have trauma in your nervous system." And that,
You say, what does that mean?
well, yeah, what does that mean? But it was actually interesting because I don't quite know what this means, but this feels so right to me. Like literally I thought, oh my goodness, yes. But I also don't think I should have trauma because I haven't had any major traumas. I haven't been my family I haven't had any family abuse. I haven't had, there hasn't been any violence, I'm still with my partner and, yes, I've been sick for so long, but what I hadn't realized is there's a lot of things that cause trauma. Being sick for so long is a trauma. Chronic stress is a trauma, or chronic anxiety is a trauma. So all of these things, events, experiences, the inability to process emotions gets trapped and stored in the body and in the nervous system. And so then it's about getting it out of the nervous system.
And I don't think we realize how much we hold on to if we're not able to process it effectively and find a release for it, because it all of that energy is stuck somewhere, right? Good or bad.
Yeah, absolutely. It's physical energy. It is emotional energy. It's thoughts is energy. So all of these different things do get stored in our body and they get trapped. And so it's really interesting because stress, the Center of Disease Control in America, did a research paper, and identified that stress causes 90% of disease.
Wow.
90% of disease.
90%, I know. And you think how common stress is these days, of varying degrees, and we're more equipped to really deal with short bursts of acute stress, and we tend to live in this state of chronic stress. Getting to work, the commute in itself can be quite stressful, never mind the experience when you're there and then all of the other stuff. So yeah, that's quite a scary statistic.
Yeah, it's a scary statistic. And as you said, and perfectly so, David, is those small things of like traveling to work every day is a small burst of stress, but it's happening every day. So that stress is actually then chronic. And so, like you said, when we talk about stress, we talk about the nervous system, there's always this analogy of a tiger. And if we were to see a tiger, what would happen? How would we react? It's an acute reaction. Our body and nervous system would do one of three things. It would stay and fight the tiger.
If you're crazy.
Well, it's just what your body and your nervous system naturally wants to do.
I don't think mine would stay and fight the tiger.
No, I think I would like to do the second one, which is flee, get out of there as quickly as possible. But I actually have a feeling that my nervous system, and this is number 3, is to freeze. So you fight, you flee, or you freeze. And so, we're used to doing that with tigers, or that's our body's natural response mechanism. But things like, the chronic stress of getting to work can put our body into a fight, flight, freeze mode without us realizing it. And one thing is our mobile phones.
Mm-hmm.
They go ding constantly, and each time that the phone rings or there's a ding, it's a shock to the nervous system, and it can put you into that fight, flight, freeze mode. So what we have in our society is this accumulation of experiences and stressful experiences that increase our cortisol, weaken our immune system. So that makes us more susceptible to illness and dis-ease. And so in my situation, a lot of the stress that I put on myself and expectations, that causes stress. Then when I got sick, so one is it depleted my immune system so much physically with the nutrition, the emotions, the mindset, that it made me weaker. And so then when I got sick, my immune system is suppressed. I don't have the emotional, the mental, the spiritual coping mechanisms and tools. So then I'm stuck in this loop of illness because I don't know how to get out. I don't know what to do. And a lot of it was that the trauma, the emotions that was stuck in my body that I needed to release.
And it starts to feed itself, I suppose. Like you're kind of just in this spiral that's a feedback loop that goes round and round and round until you find the way off. So what was it that really started to make the big difference for you?
So for me, the big difference, and look, all aspects are important and made a difference. So right from the beginning, I made nutritional changes, and that's really important. But for me, it was, and I very much look at things from a holistic perspective, but for me, it was the emotional side, the emotional and the thought side. So tapping into the traumas and the unprocessed experiences and really understanding what they are and releasing those from the body. So it's kind of like, I describe it like where our body is like a bucket, for example. And then, we generally are born and it's empty, and then we have some experience and it gets stuck in the bucket, and another experience and it gets more and more stuck. And so things like anxiety, stress, overwhelm, feeling stuck, unmotivated, and various symptoms is that actually that bucket overflowing. So the body has all these things like trapped inside it, and the symptoms are saying, hey, body, I can't cope anymore. I need some help to release these things. Can you please help me? So it's really a sign. And so for me, it was releasing those things from my trapped bucket, from my nervous system, that have really made a difference.
And how do you go about that process?
Yeah, so that process is, it's really an amazing process. So I've created a chaos to clarity reset process to help guide people through that journey. So the first one is to have an understanding of, or to actually create the vision that people want for themselves. Now, when you are in a situation of, chronic illness or stress or anxiety, it can be really hard to create a vision. Sometimes it's, I just don't want to have, these symptoms. I don't want to feel like this. And people don't often know that it's possible to have so much more.
Mm-hmm. So it's reframing away from what you don't want to have to more about what you do want to have, kind of more of a try and frame a more positive moving towards rather than moving away from.
Yeah, absolutely. Because once you set that intention, it makes it possible. Mm-hmm. Because as we know, I think it's Bruce Lipton and actually it's probably Joe Dispenza talks about, our thoughts is one of the first things that happens before things are actually created. Things happen in our energetic body before they happen in our physical body.
Yes.
So dis-ease happens energetically before it comes into our physical body. Our thoughts, things happen in our thoughts before it actually becomes a reality. So having an understanding of what it is that you want. And that might be, an ultimate mindset. It might be a certain level or amount of well-being or a certain amount of clarity for a lot of people. And ultimately, that's generally what comes through the whole process is clarity. But so step number 2, so first is create the vision. Number 2 is identify. And so that is about identifying the roadblocks to that vision. What is stopping you or people from achieving that vision? So it could be the limiting beliefs, it could be negative thoughts, it could be trapped emotions, it could be past traumas, it could be, pathogens or, a lack of well-being. Whatever it is, it's about identifying what those barriers are. And there's a number of really creative ways to go about that. So, some people think, oh, well, I don't know ultimately what the barriers are, but your body knows. Your body knows everything, because what we work with generally on a day-to-day basis is 4% of us, which is our conscious mind. We're made up of 96% subconscious. And that subconscious remembers everything from the moment that we were born, who was there, who attended our first birthday party, what presents we received, what did the cake look and taste like. But if we were to remember all of that, our bodies would be so overwhelmed. So we only access the subconscious and those deeper parts of us and memory when we need to. And that's where actually a lot of the blockages come from. They're all within us, and we go and explore where they are. That's the identify step 2. Step 3 is to release them. So it's release, it's process, it's clear. Ultimately, those underlying root causes for the dis-ease that you're experiencing.
How do you release? What defines releasing?
So releasing, there's a number of methods that I use. So the concepts of psychoneuroimmunology, which is the science behind relaxation techniques. And psychoneuroimmunology is the endocrine system, the nervous system, and the immune system. So it's techniques that focus on those components and that are evidence-based. In addition to that is some of my favorite methods for people to access this information within themselves is things like EFT, which is known as emotional freedom techniques. Never heard of that, David.
Educate me.
So emotional freedom techniques is also known as EFT for short, or tapping. And so it's based on a number of different modalities. So one being traditional Chinese medicine, in a sense that it uses acupuncture points. And so
the tapping on the tapping on the body like that.
Yeah, tapping on the body. So you got the karate chop point on the side of the hand.
I didn't know it was called this.
Top of the head, inside of the eye, outside of the eye, under the nose, chin, collarbone, and under the arm are some of the main points.
I know they use this in people that are scared of flying.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I remember one of my clients had a fear of flying, and so we worked together before she flew, and it significantly reduced her anxiety when flying.
How does it work?
So how does it work? So as I mentioned, the tapping process taps on acupuncture points. And so acupuncture points are based on meridians, and the meridians are energy lines that run through the body. So when you tap on a spot, it's accessing that meridian or that energy line. So it actually releases energy. So we can't see that energy, but it's there, and it releases the energy from the body. So some people, as they're tapping, will actually feel, if they had, say, tight shoulders, and as they're tapping, they'll say, oh, my shoulders are getting lighter. Oh, I feel it moving to my chest. Oh, it's moving into my heart. Oh, it's not there anymore. So from what, it is amazing. And you can see I'm getting excited about it because it is so powerful and effective, because one is it gets energy physically moving and flowing, because we know that emotions and beliefs and whatnot are trapped in the body. So when you tap, it moves that energy within the body. Another part is the tapping process actually calms the nervous system down. So it puts you into that relaxation state.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client session this morning, and they had never done this process before. And we did 1 round or 2 rounds of tapping, and actually they felt energy moving through all of their legs, and then felt really relaxed. I said, "Oh, I feel really calm and relaxed." So it calms the body, it calms the nervous system down. So again, helping to release emotions and physical sensations. And it also impacts the limbic system in the brain. And as we know, the limbic system is the emotional center of the brain. So we're accessing emotions, calming the nervous system, and getting energy moving and flowing. And so in that process, it's like psychological acupuncture.
Mm-hmm. Sounds really good. So I guess you can use this in 2 ways. I guess you can use it in the moment if you're, like you were talking about the flying, maybe you're anxious about something or stressed about something, whatever. And can you then, if you're using it to clear blockages, do you then recall feelings or emotions and then use it at that time, or how does that?
Yeah, absolutely. So perfect. You can use it in the moment. So I've had people have panic attacks and use the tapping process even on one spot, like their collarbone, for example, and stop their panic attacks there and then. So it's highly effective because, as we said, accessing the mind, the subconscious, calming the nervous system down, and moving energy through the body. Whereas as anxiety and panic attack is, overwhelm on the nervous system. So it can block it and stop it there and then. And then, as you said, the other aspect is to go back and process an experience. So it might be that, I'll give you an example. So it might be that someone has, just say you have chronic anxiety, for example. And so different things are different triggers for you. But you might want to know, or not just want to know, but to be able to get to the root cause of your anxiety. So these triggers are happening, but that's actually not the root cause. Your anxiety started because of a particular event or experience or something that happened that your body hasn't processed, and it's stuck in the body and you need to process it. So you do the tapping process to access the body and the subconscious mind, and I guess go back in time to experience when it happened, and to clear it and to get resolution from that point. And then it clears it all the way forward from potentially, when you were young, 3 years old or 10 years old. And it's, as you mentioned earlier, the concept of reframed. So it's not just reframing from a conscious perspective, it's actually reframing from a subconscious perspective.
Because I imagine, I think when I'm fortunate, I've never really had anxiety. I've definitely had stress for sure. But what I hear from people who do suffer with anxiety is quite often you don't know what the trigger was. So being able to identify what that was in the first place, I assume, is fundamental to being able to put a resolution in place. Otherwise, how do you fix something you don't know where the trigger was originally, because it could have moved on over the next 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does move on, and it grows and it changes. So a lot of people don't know consciously where it started. Well, some people do, because there may be some kind of trauma that they're aware of. There may have been a car accident, or, for me, I had a car accident. Chronic illness for a long period of time is trauma, but I had a number of different traumas and experiences that were trapped in my body. I had, I have clients who have done a lot of talk therapy. And they've had years and years and years of talk therapy, and they feel worse after doing talk therapy, because they say that, well, the body and the nervous system doesn't know the difference between when the trauma occurred and then when the body's talking about it. So they're like being re-traumatized and it's bringing it back up. So this stops that process from happening. But also, so I've had clients who have been in talk therapy for years and years and years, and haven't been able to identify the root cause of when their anxiety started. And I literally had a client just the other day where through this process and accessing the subconscious mind, that cause was, I guess, to some extent revealed. And so in identifying the cause, you use the tapping process to reduce the stress, the anxiety and overwhelm that happened at that time, and I guess ultimately clear it and release it from the body, so it's not there and it doesn't cause that blockage anymore.
It's interesting about the talking therapy, because I've often thought that is how does reliving an experience over and over again, and I suppose they must work for some people, but for me, I think it would probably just keep re-triggering it. And like you say, the body has no concept over real and imagined, because it's only ever processing what goes through your mind, your thoughts, the amygdala anyway. So whether you've seen it with your eyes or you've imagined it, there's really no difference, and the body will respond in its way. So one other question I got for you really is, what kind of mind techniques can people employ to overcome a stressful situation or an anxiety attack? So you can use the tapping. What other mental framing can you use to get past those situations and get to a place of clarity?
Yeah, so I really like the tapping part, because you can actually say what's happening. So if you're in an anxious state, you can tap and at the same time say, I'm feeling really anxious. I'm so anxious. I'm feeling really anxious. Whereas if you were just talking about it and saying, I'm feeling really anxious. I'm feeling really anxious. What's going to happen? This is, I guess, a demonstration of what we just talked. What was that?
It perpetuates, right?
It perpetuates. So the amazing thing about tapping is that it actually breaks that cycle even when you're saying it. So you tap and you say, I'm so anxious, I'm so anxious, I'm so anxious, feeling really anxious, I don't know how to clear this. And it actually breaks that cycle. So it's not just about, I guess it goes beyond the mental side, because sometimes the mental side can be really, really challenging to break that cycle. And that's why I like to add the tapping component in there, because it is just.
Are there any techniques that people can use day to day, kind of, I don't know, a bit like meditation or something else, where they can, when you're not in the moment exactly, helps give you the, I don't know, greater ability to cope with when stressful situations do arise, or anxiety attacks do arise?
Yeah, absolutely. So EFT is amazing. Did I say that? How many times have I said that?
Apparently it's pretty good.
Yeah, apparently. Who knows? But I mean, things like, meditation and yoga, qigong, is a form of movement. Going out for walks, spending time off phones and computers, spending time in nature, all of those things are really beautiful and powerful. And, there's breath work that is also really beautiful. So David, can I share one that is really powerful for,
Sure,
it's something
please.
that you can do. Yeah, great. So it's one that you can do when you feel stressed, but it's also something you can do outside of that. And so it's really simple. It's a 3-step process. Step number 1 and 2 is you take 2 breaths in through the nose. So it's like a quite quickly, and then you breathe out through the mouth. And so we'll do that again, and just notice your diaphragm at the time. So breathe in Twice, breathe out.
That's interesting. Yeah. They, you create that tension to begin with, and then it releases. So you kind of naturally, the diaphragm naturally clenches with that inhale, and then relaxes on the out breath.
Mm.
I like that.
So really powerful to do, obviously, in the moment, but also outside, because we often, and it's a really quick breath to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a few seconds, and you can do that for a few rounds, but even one can be powerful to, I guess, we talk about changing state, or, you know, changing our energy flow. That can change our thoughts, change our feelings, and change our actions and behaviors. So it takes, I mean, that one can be really quick, but there's, you know, there's other breath work. If you do some breath work for 90 seconds, that can change the brain and the body. 90 seconds.
Very powerful. I think we take it for granted, 100% breathing, and we'll learn to breathe better, and you can be skeptical about that kind of thing, but it does make a massive difference. Everything within you starts from that breath, really, and you can absolutely control. I've learned this in the last year or so, really, is how much you can really control your state in all different aspects of your life. Even when you're exercising, you can breathe more consciously. I think we automatically breathe heavily and deeply, and actually, if you could become conscious, you probably don't need to breathe that heavily and deeply, even when you're exerting yourself quite so much. And it's definitely something I've kind of picked up and used, like I say, fairly recently, but it makes a massive difference.
It does, and it affects, I guess, our lifespan as well, because, you know, when we're stressed, how are we breathing? We're tight and tense, breathing into our upper chest. I mean, it's not going down into our diaphragm and going out through the body, and we're not relaxed. So changing your breath has a huge impact on the physical body, but also your emotional state as well. Massively. and your health.
Yeah, exactly. Like you say, if stress contributes that much to disease, we need to be looking at how do we relieve that stress. And I think, you know, from my personal experience, breath has been one of the biggest differences that I've made, you know, through meditation and through just conscious breathing at points in the day. Sometimes I catch myself and I'm breathing, you know, fast and shallow, and it takes just a quick second to take control and reset, and suddenly you can feel the energy change immediately. You know, your heart rate tends to follow your breathing, and your thought rate tends to follow the breathing, and if you can slow all of that stuff down, the much greater clarity, and problems don't seem so big, and the challenges you try and overcome, suddenly answers appear. And it's hugely powerful, I think.
So it's often about equipping and empowering people with tools and techniques. So that is my kind of step 5, or jump step 4. But step 5 is really about empowering people with different tools and techniques, that education and that training. I'm about to, excuse me, about to sneeze. Thank you. Really empowering people with tools and techniques that can help and support them outside of working together, because the working together part is really, really, I guess it's the deeper work that is often really hard to do on your own, that can help get you to where you want to go so much quicker than if you were doing it on your own.
And you can only be with people for so much time, right? So you need to help develop those skills that they can be employed by themselves in between, I guess to kind of level out the peaks and the troughs over time.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the clearing from the bucket, I guess, quickly and more deeply with me, and then working through, as you said, peaks and the troughs, and being able to handle different things as they're coming to you in everyday life.
Any other advice for anybody suffering, and I use that word suffering because it's not nice, with stress, anxiety or overwhelm, right now? Anything that we haven't covered that you think somebody could use, whether it's just a little pearl of wisdom that somebody could employ to help get them out of that moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing is, it's normal in a sense that it's the body's natural response to what's happening and to your internal bucket being full and overflowing. So just know that it is normal. But then on the other hand, it's not normal in terms of it's not normal to experience that all the time and constantly. And that it is a sign that your bucket is overflowing and that you need help and support. So you don't have to live with these symptoms. You can live without these symptoms. And it's about finding the right practitioner and all the right tools and methods to help and support you.
Brilliant. Before we come on to where people can find you, I've got a quick fire, few questions. I'm going to
go for it.
Go with you. And let's see. I'm asking everybody these same questions because it's really interesting to get the answers. And part of it's selfish because I get some recommendations for books and people to follow and that kind of stuff. So question number one is, do you have a morning routine of any sort? And if you do, what does it look like?
Of course I have a morning routine, David.
Not everyone does, not everyone.
Well, when I talk about the mind, the body, and the spirit, I have to have one.
Yeah.
So look, it starts with, as soon as I wake up in the morning, is visualizing and feeling like joy and love. And for me, it's light, universal light, or a greater version of myself that's just like radiating and shining, and it just feels so amazing. Because the first 7 minutes of the morning are the most important for the brain, and the brain is recent. I think that's through recent neuroscience. It talks about how important it is, that 7 minutes, and malleable it is. So it's really important to be feeding it good quality stuff and nutrition and thoughts and feelings to get you started, rather than looking at the phone with negativity. So my day starts with that visualization. It might be some tapping in bed, so on different parts of my body, or just, simply just on one spot, just sort of clearing out if there's anything that needs clearing out. And just recently I started to do a half an hour yoga in the morning.
Nice.
To again, I do a half an hour yoga and then some other things. So I might do some chanting or some qigong, or, some brain spotting. It's another kind of therapy that I do. But so I just kind of feel into what I need for that day.
You have to get up quite early to fit that in?
Not really, because, yoga for me is at 7 o'clock, 7 to 7:30. And then I do another, 15, 20 minutes of other bits and pieces.
That's not too bad. Manageable.
It's not.
A lot of people think, morning routine means getting up at 5, but if you don't have to get up at crazy o'clock.
No, look, it can be, even if that morning routine for you is just that first visualization and that feeling in the morning. And even if it's 7 minutes, well, one is, that initial thought and feeling, but 7 minutes is powerful.
I'm going to remember that 7 minutes and use them a little more wisely.
Awesome.
3 books that you would recommend and why? And three's hard, right? So
I know, I'm like 3 books. I'm reading one at the moment called Energy Medicine. It's a new book. Could have been by a lady in the UK, and it talks about like the science behind energy medicine. Things like traditional Chinese medicine, hands-on healing, chakras and things. So I'm really excited to be reading that. So I haven't finished it and I'm just getting started, but I think that's a good one. What else? I've got a few books behind me. I quite like this one actually, which is Quantum Wellness.
I've not heard of that.
Which Kathy talks, I know was it forwarded? No, yeah, Kathy. Kathy talks about like sort of 5 main steps to wellness, but she talks about the concept of quantum wellness, or the quantum approach, which is really beautiful and I use all the time, which is wellness is about making like small steps and small changes. And when you make those small steps and small changes, then you end up with these big leaps in wellness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people think, oh,
compounding, really.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's those small changes and those small tweaks that get you there, not necessarily those like big, you think, oh, I've got to do, change all of this. It's the small things that are achievable. So that's a really beautiful one.
I like that.
What's the third one? Third one, because it's behind me here. There's so many good books. I'm a bit of a bookaholic. I have a whole massive cupboard over here that's full of books.
Yeah, me too. This is why I ask for more recommendations, because I plow through the things. But yeah, like I said to another guest the other day, Tim Ferriss cost me a fortune because I keep following his recommendations.
Are you a Sagittarian, David?
I'm not. I'm Libran.
Oh, I don't know. I know myself and my mother-in-law are both Sagittarians, and we both love and addicted to books.
Yeah, mine's been in the last few years, really. I never really read until, I don't know, maybe probably only 3 or 4 years ago. I went through a spell of reading, and then my commute changed, so I was driving, and so I lost the reading for quite a while, and then I went back to Audible, and then everything kicked in, and then I was reading physical books and Audible all at the same time. And I knew I had 3 books on the go at any one time.
I love it.
Now I have one at a time.
So this next book is The Dirt Cure by Maya She Treat. And Maya is American. She's really, really amazing. I've seen her speak at a conference. And so she is she's a physician. Was it oncology or pediatric neurologist? Mm-hmm. A pediatric neurologist. So obviously working, neurology, the brain with children, and started looking at things from a different perspective and really looking at, so it's called The Dirt Cure. So it's really about nature and the importance of nature and the impact that has on the body, on the brain, and, kids with, autism and learning difficulties. And obviously the book extends beyond that and is really about the dirt cure, human, nature, and
I like that.
The influence that has on the body. So that is really beautiful and obviously very evidence-based as well, which is really nice.
Nice. Good recommendations. 3 people to follow or listen to, and why?
3 people to follow, listen to, and why? Oh, this is a really tough one. Georgie the naturopath on Instagram.
I've not heard of her, so
she's a local here in Australia, but so she's a naturopath. She does a lot on anxiety. She does a lot on women's health, mm-hmm. and she's really, really inspirational. She's had her own journey. She's a naturopath, obviously, so then uses a lot of herbals to help and support people and looks at things from a nutritional perspective and a mindset perspective. So I love Georgie and the work that she does. Who else? It's really challenging. I need to go through my bits and pieces. Mm-hmm. Who else do I follow? I'm a little bit stuck and stumped here. She's Got Power is the Instagram handle, mm-hmm. and Michelle Fennel-Greek is actually, she's changed her name. Michelle is based in America, but she's a nutritionist who also helps people to become nutritionists, mm-hmm. but works with women who are stressed, anxious, overwhelmed from a nutritional perspective, and really getting that balance nutritionally in their life. And who else? Oh, yeah, it is. I'm like, oh my goodness, you have put me on the spot. I'm completely unprepared here. Dr. Daniel Pompa.
Don't know him.
Dr. Daniel Pomper is someone.
Three recommendations here that I'm not aware of, so it's good.
So Dr. Daniel Pomper is based in America, and he is I think like an integrating functional medicine practitioner. He actually came from a recommendation. So someone recommended him to me. And I love the work that he does, and I've been following for many, many years. But he does a lot of, he does talks every day, but a lot on fasting.
Oh, interesting.
And the benefits of fasting and how important that is, and a ketogenic diet. But I mean, ultimately about the optimal diet and nutrition for the body. So he's very much into fasting, and every few months does a group online fast. And I can't remember how many people are in the Facebook group now, but I think it's probably over 50,000 people in the Fasting for a Purpose, I think, is the group. There's 31,000 members in the group. And so he will do a fast online. He will talk to you in preparation, so a few weeks prior, and build you up so that you're having the right nutritional intake to be able to do the fast, talk you through the fast. It's really amazing, and something that helps, I guess, the mind, the body, and the spirit, because it's cleansing in all different levels and layers.
Yeah, I've read a lot about fasting fairly recently, and something I'm quite interested in. I work out how to fit it in with exercising. It's I haven't quite figured out yet, so I need to do some more research.
Well, you can just start by increasing your eating window. So if you normally eat at 7 a.m. in the morning, then try 8 a.m. and then try 9 a.m. and 10 and push it back. So you can do your intermittent fasting.
Yeah, I did that for a while actually, and quite quickly I got used to it. It was fairly straightforward, particularly when I was traveling. I was normal day-to-day work, because I just eat dinner and then not eat until lunch. My schedule's changed somewhat, and I tend to exercise in the morning now, which has kind of thrown a spanner in the works. So I need to figure that bit out, particularly when I go cycling, because no food and cycling doesn't seem to work very well.
Yeah.
I'll figure that one out. Okay, so 3 good habits or disciplines that you've adopted that you feel have made the biggest difference to your life.
3 habits and disciplines would be that morning routine, that visualization first thing in the morning, adding tapping into my day or when things are happening. And 3 things is, I'm just sort of looking over on the side here. I'm just like, it's creating a space for myself. So I have my yoga mat down. I've got a little cupboard and some things on top. So my music is on there. I've got some books. I've got some essential oils and crystals, and a real little space for me. And I've been where I am now for 1.5 years, and I didn't have this space in this area. So I didn't feel, it was more difficult to do my practice. Whereas the last few weeks I have this little setup, and it just feels so much easier to do. I guess it's like a little, like a little temple, but it's my space, and that has really helped.
Yeah, it's nice if you've got somewhere where you don't have to keep packing away and setting up and packing away and setting up, because it creates barriers, right? And that's something I've found with this lockdown, is now doing everything in more or less one area is actually more challenging than leaving and going to the gym, because that was a set pattern, whereas working out in the living room seems to be harder than going to the gym.
Well, actually,
it's a relaxing space, not a exercise space.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the space. So I'm actually it's actually been helpful for me because I still have some challenges with my energy levels and fatigue. I found it really difficult to go out and, do yoga and things. Whereas now I'm doing it online. So I don't have any excuses. I have to, set my computer up. It's there, and I don't need to travel. I just rock up in my pajamas.
Well, in that case, then this question might be quite easy. 3 tools, systems, services, apps, whatever you want, whatever that you now couldn't live without.
So can I say EFT again? Is that allowed?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah. So EFT, what was that? Systems, apps, and things.
Yeah, anything.
Um, Number two would be Insight Timer.
Insight timer.
Oh, you don't know that one,
No,
David.
I do not.
Um, Timer. It's free to download on your iPhone, and it has I think it's over 100,000 meditation, a lot of meditations and things. So there's music, different types of meditation. So there's some tapping in there. There's some, yin yoga. There is chanting. There's, bilingual beats. There's all different sorts. So it is amazing, and it's free to use and access. So that's awesome for, yeah. Yeah, that's a really good one. Number three, you like these threes, don't you?
Because one's easy, but three's more challenging because you've got to.
It is. Three. Oh, essential oils. Oh, can I add a fourth one?
Yeah, go on. I'll let you off.
Thank you. So I love essential oils. They're amazing. They work at different levels within the body. So they're, the energetic and the physical level and layers, and spiritual, which is really amazing. So I love those, but I love cards. I love cards. I guess, some people call them like oracle cards, or I have about 6 decks, but I have 4 on the way. And they're really beautiful and really powerful because there's always some kind of message or gift in them that relates to you and what's happening for you. And I use them with all of my clients. I generally send them often after a session as a bit of a reflection after a session. Can I choose one for you, David? Are you?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. So this deck that I'm using is The Secret Language of Color Cards by Inna Siegel. She's amazing. So it's very much based on color. So some of them are really spiritual and really woohoo, but some of them are actually quite kind of practical. So this one is Coral, allow flow and synchronicity into your life.
I like that.
Does it resonate?
Yes. Yeah, I've become more conscious of synchronicity, I would say, in the last year or so. It's surprising. It's surprising the things that turn up, right?
So cards are really beautiful and really powerful. I used to think, being left brain, organized, trying to control everything. I used to do a lot with processes and systems, and I was in IT. So everything's has to be logical. Well, what I do now to some extent is almost not logical, because it's going with the flow, and, there's not always a set sequence of things. But so, choosing a card for, what's an intention, or what's a theme for today, or what do I need to know, or I'm really stuck right now, and pulling a card is completely sort of letting go and not in control. But it's so amazing how accurate these are. And every time I pull one for a client, they're like, oh my goodness, that's, that was the theme of the session, or that's exactly where I'm at now. Or I've even used it to when clients, some clients say, oh, I don't know what I want to work on today. Okay, well, how about we, how do you feel about pulling a card? Pull a card, and they say, oh my gosh, or they don't quite know what it means, but we do some work, and then the whole session ends up being about the theme of that card. So it's a little bit woo-woo, but we combine woo-woo and science together.
Yeah. Well, I think science just tends to prove a lot of the woo-woo these days. So,
oh, I like that, David.
You know what I mean? It's all of the stuff that everyone was talking about in India thousands of years ago, science is now just catching up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting to watch happen.
I can't wait until the science catches up with energy healing, hands-on energy healing. That is going to be amazing.
Well, it's going to take some pride swallowing, I think, for a lot of people for that to happen. That's why it's delayed. The final question, this is only a one. If you could spend an hour with one person, dead or alive, who would that one person be?
Oh, this feels really quite do some tapping as we do this. This like feels quite I don't know if heavy is the right word, or like such a big question. So who would it be? Initially it was like Tony Robbins and someone else, and it was God, and then it was actually the creator of, I don't know if it's like the creator, yeah, I guess the creator of kind of like the universe. So for me, when I visualize like the quantum field, or me and what else is out there, I visualize this, or I see this beautiful like golden light, and that comes through in a lot of things, in meditations and visualizations and things. So it's actually the golden light, actually discovering more of like how and why.
Where does that thing come from?
Yeah, a little bit like more about it. I mean, ultimately, I feel in sense that it's me, I'm that creator, and we're all one and we're all connected. So I feel that, and I feel that in the light, but sometimes it's kind of more depth to that.
I get
it's kind of like
exactly where you're coming from. Yeah,
it's like the end of the rainbow. It's like you want to go to the end of the rainbow, and like that pot of gold.
Does the end ever? Is there an end to the rainbow? That's the thing. I just don't. Who bloody knows?
That's with this light. Same thing.
One thing I'd say on that is one thing I noticed over the last, I don't know, however long, is that the more conscious you become, when you close your eyes, you think it goes dark, and then you realize that it's not actually dark. You can find a very, very bright light when your eyes are closed. If you're conscious of it in the right place, you kind of take it for granted that you close your eyes and it goes dark. And I found it doesn't actually go very dark. It goes quite bright, and I have to work for it to go dark, not for it to.
Yeah, fantastic. And see, a lot of people who obviously work with me, and are, I guess, not conscious or are on the journey, what they see is darkness, and what they feel in their bodies is darkness. And it's about paving the way for them, empowering them so they can see the light and experience it, and they're not stuck in the different experiences and emotions and thoughts that are keeping them in the darkness.
That's amazing. Well, we have slightly overrun, but it's been very interesting. Thank you very much for giving up your time and coming to speak to me. Where can people find you and find out more if they've enjoyed listening to this?
Thanks, David. I've had such a ball chatting here, and I hope the listeners have too. So where people can find me is lisagumieniuk.com. That's Gumieniuk.com, as well as Facebook and Instagram, which is Lisa Gumieniuk Coach, and my Facebook group, which is Chaos to Clarity Reset.
Perfect. And I'll make sure we've got all of the links when this goes out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much for giving it your time. Have a lovely evening over there in Sydney, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you.
Great. Cheers, Lisa.
Bye.